So I've pressed record and I just want to welcome everyone who is here. Welcome to our webinar, Faces of Leadership. We're so excited that you're here and would love to hear where you're from. So if you are able to get on the chat, would love to, your name. Are you from Calgary? Are you from somewhere else? What do you do? What brings you here? Would just love to hear a little bit about you. So just going to take a moment and we got Camille who has said hello.
Hi,
Oh, Isla from Calgary and Vancouver. Okay, so first of all, Vancouver is my favorite place on the planet. Are you one of those lucky ones that gets to live in both places? Because if that's you, I would like to be you. Welcome, so glad you're here. Anyone else, feel free, tell us where you're from and would even love to hear what brings you here today. What inspired you to sign up for this webinar, say on your lunch break? Or wherever you are. Tina from Toronto, welcome. Your sweetheart is in Calgary. I was thinking no one moves from Vancouver to Calgary unless it's family or love. And that was my case. I moved from Vancouver to Calgary in 2006 and it was because of family. Oh, and we have Winnica from Winnipeg. Oh, that's wonderful. And Denise has invited you. That's wonderful. Just graduated from U of C. That's
congratulations.
She is a fabulous young leader coming up there, and Isla as well. Isla has led the way on many things, I know. So, and Winnica has already started that journey at a young age.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I love it. I love it. And Cynthia is tuning in while she works. Cynthia works with us. Just so you know a little bit about us, we're from Wellness Innovate. My name is Connie Jacob. I am the Senior Manager of Wellness. But Wellness Innovate is a part of a larger pool. We have Momentum Coaching, which is where Cynthia works, but we all work in the same office. You'll meet Euniz, who owns Axe IT. We all are one big family. And so we're just so excited that you're here. And I loved what someone wrote here, wanting to hear the amazing stories of these amazing women, girl power, who run the world. I usually don't do that on our Wellness Innovate webinars, but I really felt like that was called for today. And I'm wondering, do we have any gentlemen here? Because I know that there was some men who signed up. Ken Mckinnon, you brave soul, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. We need the men.
Yes.
We need the men to celebrate women who are rising. And you know what, women, just because I have boys, I'm just such an advocate of men. I'm an advocate of women, absolutely, but I am also an advocate of men. And our CEO, Euniz Brown, for Wellness Innovate, is a real advocate for women. He is a celebratory man who celebrates when women take leads and strides forward. And I just want to acknowledge and honor him for, being such a champion of women starting business, women who have overcome incredible odds. He is the one who leads our charge. And so if you're like that too, Ken, or anyone else watching later on, we just are
He is like that.
He is awesome. Euniz Brown is my coach.
Euniz Brown is your coach. That's great.
Euniz Brown is my lifetime coach and partner.
Well, I think, Euniz, you might know Abe a little bit. I'm assuming,
a little bit.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Well, we'll just welcome you all here. It's going to be an amazing time. One of my favorite things about these conversations is being inspired by people's stories. And you are going to leave inspired today. And so I want to pass this over to my friend Denise, who's going to be facilitating this conversation. Denise, we absolutely love working with you. You are a phenomenal woman. You advocate so well for the things that need to be advocated for. So welcome and take it away.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody and our honored guests who are sitting in on this, and to all of you ladies, thank you. And I'm just so honored and privileged to be here with all of you. It's been amazing to work with Wellness Innovate and to be part of these great initiatives that you roll out and give people the opportunity to feature the wonderful things that are actually happening. And I think that we're in a time where listening and hearing and being inspired. We need that. And it's going to be so fun to talk about the faces of leadership with Joy and Euniz here today. And I want to say that over the last few weeks, we've definitely witnessed the glass ceiling being broken with the vice president-elect in the United States. And I think that's encouraging for many women and women of color and people all around the world. I think that's a real inspiration for them. And although we've had some interesting examples of leadership over the last while, I think we've also had some really great ones. And we can look to New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, and she has been fabulous at leading the way for women and just being very graceful as she faces many of the challenges that she's faced. A little bit of information about me. I am a proud Canadian, and my background is West Indian, my ethnicity. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. And my uncle recently reminded me when I did the last Wellness Innovate, he said, do people know that you came from poverty in those first, that first year or two of your life? Do they know that you came from a place of poverty? And I said, I never really think about it. I had an amazing family and incredible friends, and grew up in Fort McMurray. And still those people, very big part and a strong part of my foundation over to this day. And I think about this. I had a conversation with a girlfriend recently. We were talking about privilege. And I said, well, of course, I can't talk from a white privilege perspective, but I certainly had privilege. I grew up in an environment where we had privilege. I didn't have to think about where my next meal came from at that point, or whether we could afford to go to the dentist. And I never had to think, oh, will I be able to afford to go to university? I knew that those things were there for me, and that my parents had worked very hard to ensure that would be part of my life. And although they worked hard, we also were very fortunate to be in a space where we could have those opportunities, which many don't. Now, having said that, I was always raised to know that my parents always would say to me, I had to work twice as hard as my white peers to achieve those same things. So that was also part of my makeup in my brain, that I had to work that much harder to ensure my place in society and in leadership. Having said that, I can honestly say that the race lens for me in my leadership has not been so much of an issue, although I can appreciate that it has been for people. I've definitely experienced things like, if I saw somebody that was saying something or doing something, my first thought is, oh my gosh, they must be having a bad day. Or I wonder what's going on in their life. And I become curious about what's happening for them that they need to portray themselves in that light. It never dawns on me that there might be a racist aspect to that. Having said that, I would say that the challenges I've faced over the years have been things like bullying and harassment in the workplace, lateral violence, and competition. And as I reflect, I wonder whether this is partly coming from scarcity, that people feel that there's scarcity or there's fear. And so it brings to me that lens of compassion to try to understand what motivates people in the workplace to exhibit those types of behaviors. Not to say that I haven't gone through my share of angst over them, or felt, or wondered why it's happening and all of those things. But I think reflection has been really good, really a good teacher for me. And this really speaks to the need to create more opportunities for leaders, to have opportunities for women in leadership and the new faces of leadership. And I've had the privilege and honor of working with many men and women who have just been amazing and excellent role models. And I've had great mentors through the years. And I've also had experiences. So this has really taught me the importance of values, of really maintaining our values and being solid in who we are, because we will be faced with things that challenge us. And through those times, it's going to be our inner self of, our self-worth, our sense of understanding and knowing what our values and our ethics and morals are, that will get us through. I mean, I very recently had an experience where a senior leader, I watched him in a room of women leaders, very strong women leaders, be completely arrogant and disrespectful to all the women in the room. And I was flabbergasted. And I remember leaving that meeting very upset and going to my director and saying, if this is the culture here, I can't do this. And he said, Denise, just make everything his idea and you'll be fine. And I thought, oh my gosh, where am I? What year is this? It's crazy. And having said that, you know, you really realize in those moments that your values don't align, and you then have to discern what your decisions will be on that. And I think that this attitude lends itself to behaviors in women sometimes that are less than, because they're striving, they're up against this type of behavior and these politics, and there are very still not as many leadership roles or positions maybe for them. So as women, I believe that we need to support each other. And as people, I believe we need to support each other with love and compassion still, and with that element of collaboration rather than competition in the workplace. And these traits are not signs of weakness. We need to recognize the challenges of intersectionality. We need to, you know, how combined challenges of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, the many, many barriers that the people in our wonderful multicultural country face, how it impacts them, and how this can translate. We need to be able to stand tall and not play small to appease people around us. And I've been told that before by some friends when we reflect. They say, well, maybe you shouldn't dress up the way you do, or maybe you should speak down a little bit. I think, why do we have to do that? Why do I have to do that? And you know, I have a painting and it says, she shone her light, and by doing so, she gave others permission to do the same. We need to shine our light and not allow anything to diminish that. These next two women have amazing stories of resilience, courage, and leadership that triumphed in a strange new land. And I'm so excited to be here today with you both to share this journey with all of you that are joining us. So our first guest is Euniz Brown, the Chief Technology Officer of Axe IT Consulting. You can see that behind her. She's a mom, and she's also a fitness enthusiast who loves a challenge herself. However, Euniz has assured me that she is not competitive. This is completely against herself when she enters into these challenges. So I'll let you be the judge of that as we listen to Euniz's story. Welcome, Euniz. I'm so excited
Hello.
to see you here today.
Thanks so much, Denise, and thanks for Wellness Innovate for the invitation to share our story, both Joy and I, right, today. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to just take a few moments and for you to share with our guests a little bit of background, how you came to be here, and that journey, a little bit of what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, Euniz Brown. You know, whenever I share my story, I always tell them about how I got to Canada. You know, I came from, of course, the Philippines. I'm not a white person, a brown girl, proud Filipina and proud Canadian now too, of course. Came from the Philippines, and you know, I came from an island in the Philippines. It's a heart-shaped island, you know, a little bit far from the city. And having been coming from the island, you know, I usually say we came from a family of fishermen. So, you know, whenever I look at myself and thinking back on my childhood, I always see that Eunice, you know, selling fish in the market. That was my mom's first, my parents' first business. To send us to school, you know, they work really hard. We're not rich, or you know, have all the privilege in life, and so you know, at young age, I always remember I was you know, maybe around 7. I was helping my mom selling fish in the market, and I would even like go to school with still, you know, smelling like a fish, still a scale of the fish on my skin, and my classmate would make fun of me and you know, call me names because of that, right? So, but you know, that helped me really stand on. I have to do well in school. I have to give back to my parents because they work so hard. I see their hard work every day at the market. And so, you know, I would work hard in school, and I would get, you know, I will win competitions and be leading to, you know, different stuff in the school activities. And, you know, I did so well that I reached university with work as a, you know, I got my scholarship, and you know, did well. And after that, I went to Dubai, and that was my first adventure. I decided to go to Dubai and found a job in IT. Before I went to Dubai, I finished a degree in computer network engineering, and that was in Manila already. And before I graduated, I work in an antivirus company already, and has been doing. I always like think of how can I be better today, because I could use that opportunity as an opportunity later. So I haven't shared this a lot, but actually when I was taking my degree in computer network engineering, on the side, so during the day I'm learning all about technical stuff and computer. In the evening, I actually took a live-in caregiver program. So I'm learning all the technicality of healthcare stuff. So I finished that along with me finishing my degree. And, it was on my back pocket thinking, because at the time they were saying, you can go to other countries, maybe go to the US and you could use that live-in caregiver certificate. So I did that, but I ended up going to Dubai, and then from Dubai, it was a different world. Dubai was a bit of a challenge because I'm a woman, and I could say this because if you guys haven't been into Middle East, it's way different than the privileges that we have here as a woman, as an immigrant. The privileges, the opportunities that we have here in Canada is very different when you're in Middle East. So in there, I was able to get into IT. It's a VoIP company that I work with, and my boss, my boss in there would trust me, and he always called me the clever girl. Eunice is such a clever girl. And so he would always see that he said that he could see a big opportunity for me to grow and be a leader, which I don't believe anyway, but I always listen carefully, get into the instruction, and he would like leave his business to me when he's away on travel. And this is Middle East. Women doesn't have a lot of opportunity in Middle East. So I would hear him with his partner saying, she should be your secretary. You shouldn't be leaving your business to that girl. So, because again, I'm a woman. And then, women are always generalized in Dubai, as some sort of a symbol. So, I've been working hard in Dubai and trying to get to that level of professional, a corporate, trying to get into the corporate ladder, but that was really hard because I'm a woman. And so I decided that I need to move forward. And I always tell this story when, on why I decided to leave Dubai. Dubai is beautiful. I mean, it is a toy land, I call at night, because at night it was just beautiful, the different buildings that they have there. And so, when the story that I have and the reason why I decided to leave was I was on a conference at the Dubai World Trade Center representing the company. VoIP system was so new at the time. So, we're always talking about the VoIP system and all of this. And then I had a break and went into a break in a cafe at the Dubai World Trade Center. And there's this guy from Greece. And he's like, later on, so we were talking about technology, and then later on it became, so are you from the Philippines? Well, of course I am proud. I'm from the Philippines. I'm a Filipina. I said yes. And then he's like, we have a lot of Filipinas back home. He meant Greece, and they are good. When he said the good, it didn't sound good at all. It meant for something else. And so, at that time, and I've been having a lot of these experiences before that, but that was kind of like a trigger for me to, I just need to move forward. Because after our conversation, because I'm feeling a little bit anxious already, so it's like, okay, I have to go back. And then he's like, well, by the way, here's my card, and I'm staying at this hotel, and this is my room number. And I was like, oh, like I think you got it wrong. And right in front of him, I peeled the card. But you know what? I was so brave. But as soon as I look back, going back to our group, I was like dying. I felt like I'm somebody's gonna shoot me anytime, or somebody's just gonna grab me and put me down. I was so scared. So yeah, and I've always had this feeling when I was there. So the safety wasn't there. So right away, like Muhammad, we have a driver in the company. I was like, bring me back to the office, and I applied as soon as I went back to the office, applied online, and I didn't know that I actually applied in Calgary Herald. Who would know? So I applied whatever. I was like, I can do a volunteer. I applied in Australia, in the US. I just need to be out of Dubai just because of all this experience. And I felt like there's no really real opportunity for me as a woman. And so, that's where my story on coming to Canada started. So I got a call from a family, looking, and I applied as a live-in caregiver. And they said they're from Calgary. So I Googled Calgary. It's like, where did I apply? And Google said that Calgary gets most of the sun out of all of Canada. That sounds good, because the only place that I know about Canada is either Toronto or Vancouver. But I mean, it sounds like it's good. And then she was talking about they have a big house and they have 2 girls so I looked into the live-in caregiver program, and I saw it as a big opportunity to come in here with less work, because it was actually a really good program, because you had to work for 2 years as a live-in caregiver, and then later on you'll get your permanent residency, so you'll get to integrate and know a little bit more about the Canadian way of living before you integrate. So I saw that as a good opportunity, and went through the whole process until I got to the day that I moved here. So I moved here, it was in March, and coming from a 50 degrees to a -10 day, it was snowing. And on our way from the airport, going to the southeast where they live, he started talking. It just hit me then that I was like, oh my gosh, I came to a place and everybody was against my decision to move to Canada, because all they were seeing was I'm coming in as a nanny, which I kept fighting, because I was like, it's not a nanny job, it's a live-in caregiver program. So like, Eunice, it's the same, it's a nanny. You have a good job in here, you finish a degree, why would you want to be a nanny? And for me, no, it's a live-in caregiver. It's an opportunity for me, it's a stepping stone to come to Canada. So, on our way, when I landed, I realized I didn't know a single person in Canada. This is such a place of like nowhere for me. It's like, who do I know? If I need help, who do I call? I have nobody. And then on our way from the airport to the southeast, he started talking about the girls. So the girls that I would take care of, they actually have special needs. So they have special children. They have FASD, which I have no idea about. I thought I was just gonna take care of kids, which is an easy job. I love taking care of kids. And then they added that they have a 31-year-old son that lives with them in the basement where I will be staying as well. So that's where.
So Eunice, it sounds like you had so many challenges right off the bat when you first came. Did you always?
Yeah.
And this is an interesting story, because I know we don't have a lot of time to go into all the great details that are so rich and the tapestry of this background. And I really want to know, did you always envision yourself to be a leader? Did that happen? So as this is unfolding, you're probably in your head going through, would you like to share with us a few of the challenges and how you overcame them in this situation? You've got your family thinking, oh, what are you doing? You're well educated. You should be doing something else. And I've heard this from many people, new Canadians that have come here, that they've had that experience. They're coming here with some great designations, and they come and then they need to work through the system here. Do you want to share for a minute or two about that, how that was for you?
Well, it was hard, right? Because when I came, I think I had a battle within myself, knowing that, I came in here, I realized that, yeah, I am a nanny. Because everybody, the kids were introducing me as, this is our nanny. And then the other challenge, I think, internally was like, from my friends, they're like, oh, you're in Canada, what do you do in Canada? So, it's I think coming from a corporate world and then seeing that I'm actually cleaning bathroom, I'm making everything clean and shine in that house. I can't even say that, yeah, I'm in Canada, but you know what? I am starting from the scratch, like literally from the scratch. I can't even say I'm working in an office. I have no office at all. My office is the bathroom or the, you know, the living room that I clean up every day. So, you know, that was hard to pull myself up from that thought. But I learned so much about humility, and I think that reflects a lot of my leadership now, because I could reach the top, but you know what? I won't ever forget when I had to go at the bottom, because I've always done so well in my life. I've done so well in school. I've done so well in my career when I was in IT, up until I went to that bottom of the wheel when I started here in Canada, and I had to start from scratch, from like nothing, and I had to build myself up to go back to IT. So you know, if I like that experience when I was a nanny and I had to go through that fight within myself, I think it helped for me to be a good leader, because having that humility and learning really what it means to be humble, that like you can't, those bling stuff, it's nothing, right? It's all about who you are, your value, and what you bring in, and what value you bring into other people.
Oh, what great words of wisdom. Humility is such a key piece of leadership, and unless we've experienced it, which oftentimes these challenges force us to that place, it will beat us down in a way that we've probably never experienced before, and brings us to our knees in a sense, in the sense of humility, that humility is such a foundation. And all of the great leaders that I know and mentors that I've had over the years, humility has been what I look at with them and go, wow, they are just exemplify that. And so what a lesson to share.
Mm-hmm.
And as you think about that, what other, did you always envision yourself to be a leader? Was that something that you thought, you know, I'm a leader and this is, or did it just always was and it evolved that way because of your personality?
Honestly, not really. I think because of my background, I grew up in, like, a poverty mindset. So we're always told, don't be friends with that person because they're too rich. Like, it's almost like you can't be a leader because you're coming from nothing. Like, we don't have that much to, like, be at the top level. So I've always seen myself as, because when I think of a leader, it's always like, oh, you're a manager, or like you're an owner, or you own this big company. So I've always thought, I'm always gonna be a worker. But every time, like, I join a group, they always put me to that, in the front, like leading. And I'm like, no, that's not me. And I always pull myself back. But I've always, like, everybody has always, like, even my boss would always see, like, the leadership in me, and I had to fight it, like, to put, just so I'm not on the spotlight. And then, but it always comes back. And I think because of my personality as well, it always goes back to the front. And then now, and when I started embracing it, I think that's just when I learned that, yeah, I guess I am a leader, and I can be a good leader. And it's always a work in progress, being a good leader. It's tough to be a good leader.
I think it's that lifelong learner in you that shines through, and the fact that you just continually, the betterment and that lifelong learning that you embrace so well. And even when you talk about the challenges, I want to share a little thought that I didn't tell you before when you had shared this story with me about growing up and selling fish by the fish market. I will often joke, and my friends that are on this can attest to this, that when I've had enough some days here and I just think, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? I'll say to my friends, you know what? I just want to go and sell coconuts by the roadside or sell fish in the fish market. That's what I want to do with my life. And that's my go-to. Those have been my two go-to. Of course, I come from a small island. It wasn't heart-shaped, but it did have a unique shape to it too. And those are always my two go-to jobs. So when you said that to me, I was like, oh, that sounds like the perfect life.
We connect.
Well, thank you for all sharing so much. And And before we wrap up with this point, I'd like to just say, do you have any other words of wisdom that you'd like to share? I think you shared so much already, but for our young leaders out there watching and our continuing leaders, are there any other words of wisdom that you'd like to impart today before we sign off
I
there?
think, there's three. Always, don't forget the value that you learned, right? That will always help you when, that experience of always the world is not flat. It's a circle, right? So it turns around. So, knowing who you are is very important. And believe in yourself, right? I've always say, because I believe I can, and I know I can. It may not be perfect, it may not be what the definition of others for best, but if I put my best, that is the best. And I know I don't have to look back saying, oh, I should have or I could have, but I won't, because I know I put my best on the works that I do. And then I think the last thing, and I think I very, very important as you grow and as you move on in life, partner, right? Believe in the people that helps you. I can't be where I'm at now if it's just me who's doing all the works. There's every success, there's people behind that success, and it's not just one person. And I really believe I had a good family that really supported me in a lot of what I do. My husband, who believes so much in me, and my family that inspires me. So, when you go down that road again, you always have something where you can pull. And those are the people that believes in you and that supports you.
Absolutely. I could not have said that any better. Thank you so much, Euniz.
Thank you, Denise.
What a pleasure to be here today with you and for you to share that. You've just said some things that really resonate and will really go deep, I hope, with everybody listening. So thank you. And hang on, we're going to now move into speaking with Joy, but you are still here and we will still continue this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, I turn to Joy now, Tajanlangit. Did I say that right, Joy?
Yes, you got it almost right, but I'm so proud you you pronounced it so like 99% right.
Okay, good. I was like, I want to make sure I get this right because it's so important. And Joy, I loved when we were talking and I said, how should I introduce you? And you said, I'm a single mom, I'm a coach to women, I'm an entrepreneur. And then you said, just say I'm aware of a lot of things in my head. So I'm sure there are a lot of things in your head and we want to know what those things are. So we're really looking forward to this conversation. And so I want to welcome you and thank you for being here today to share your story. And I don't want to waste any time, so I want to launch right into your story.
Oh, thank you so much, Denise. And thanks, Connie. And Euniz, your story is so inspiring. And so is your story, Denise. Each of us have stories that just creates inspiration and motivation for a lot of people. So I'm so glad that you invited me to share my story to this group of wonderful people that are listening right now.
Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about how you came to be, because I love your story.
Yeah, so I am actually a person, I think even when I was a child, I have this very independent spirit. And so I came to Canada in 1997 with $200 in my pocket and no job at all. It was just me, the $200 and a lot of guts. And even though my parents loaned me some money, but I know that I don't need to touch that. I still have to return it to them. So when I came here, prior to that, I was working as a pharmaceutical sales representative in the Philippines for 6 years. I have a background in nursing, so I graduated as a nurse. I'm a registered nurse. I also am. I was actually I passed an exam to practice nursing in the U.S., but I think my heart was just not into the hospital setting. So, and when I experienced sales in the pharma industry, I love it, and I think I stuck with that. Even now, that's still my full-time job, right? But I stuck with that just because there's the compassion piece in it. We look after the patients. We know that the drugs prolong life and gives better quality of life and healing. And so I stuck with that. But so 1997, came to Canada, $200 in my pocket. But my focus is survival. My focus at the time is how can I make my life better here in Canada? And so every distraction is I have blinders on so that I'm not distracted. And I have, my expectation was so broad that I didn't see myself as, okay, I am a sales executive in the Philippines. I'll come here. I expect myself to be in an executive position. No, it's not like that. I came here to Canada with an expectation that either I'll start from scratch and I'll work my way up. And for me, I think that helped me, because of that mindset, that helped me to survive. And I didn't see myself as struggling to get to where I am right now. And I remember, Denise, we were talking a few days ago, and I told you about this story that my first job here was in a deli, and then I don't know if the audience still remembers Future Shop. So I became part of Future Shop, and I also became a licensed insurance agent for my first 6 months here. There was also a time that I don't have a car yet. I was living with our relative, and I missed my bus going to the deli, and I had to walk 2 kilometers in knee-deep snow that day. But I was not complaining. I was like, I didn't even feel sorry for myself, because I thought that was just, I was thinking that's just part of the process. It's part of me embracing Canada. This is their weather. So Joy, suck it up, right? And when I came here, I have also that mindset that I'll have to embrace the culture. It's not for me to impose myself into Canada, impose what I want for Canada to embrace me, but I have to embrace the diversity and the culture here. And it's just like, when we are invited in a friend's house, you don't say that, okay, because I wear pajamas at the house, I'll come to your house wearing my pajamas and I want you to cook this for me. It's not like that. We try to be polite. We try to embrace the dynamics of our friend's home, right? So it's just the same when we come to Canada. And I had that mindset, that mindset of just embracing diversity, embracing the culture, and that mindset of broadening my expectation and that mindset of having that focus to survive. So that's my story when I came here to Canada, and I worked my way up and came back to drug dealing, as I call it, after 6 months. After 6 months, so the company that I was working for in the Philippines also hired me here in Canada. And from there, that's my story with the pharmaceutical industry continued. And now I'm on my, oh my gosh, almost my 3rd decade with the industry, selling drugs, legal drugs. But and now I ventured into coaching. I ventured also into entrepreneurship, and yeah, I cannot ask for anything better.
I love that lens, and I love that that way of being and embracing and being here and embracing culture. And I often, it's funny. So all 3 of us have the stories of snow that for some of us are different. And I would say I laughed because my parents went from Trinidad, and same thing, my father had a great job at British Petroleum and gave it all up to come and start from scratch here. And we were very poor in those first years, but it was still okay. But we all had those stories of snow. I remember sometimes saying, oh my gosh, you went from Trinidad to Fort McMurray. Really? How did that happen? And we actually have those stories of walking from, a couple kilometers to get to school in minus 30-degree weather. So it's so funny. But I'm really curious, Joy, because it's such a story, showing up with $200. I mean, that's a gutsy move to make at the age that you were at. What did you always envision yourself as being a leader? I go to the same questions that I was looking at with Euniz. Did you always envision yourself as being a leader, becoming the leader that you are? Was that, you said you were always somebody that had your own mind and did your own things. So was that very intrinsic for you?
Looking back, just like Eunice, I think those you really didn't envision, like same with her. I didn't really envision myself as a leader. But looking back, I would attribute having those leadership qualities from the moment, like I was like a small kid. And I developed, I think I learned that from my mom, because our family dynamic before, when I was growing up, my father was in the military. So he would always be away. We would be lucky to see him maybe 2 or 3 months in a whole year. So my mom was always the leader of the household. And she has this, you see her manage the household successfully. I see her how brave and courageous she is. So I think that is inculcated in my being when I was growing up. Being the elder of the 2 kids, I also am very independent, and early on I have to learn decision making. And even though I didn't see myself as a leader at the time, but because I have these qualities and it's being manifested outside, people see that in me, and I'm kind of drawn into these roles of leadership. And even when I was in high school, I don't think that I didn't see myself as a leader, but there are instances that I would be drawn in to become a leader in organizations, in clubs. And when I came here, actually, and I started working in the pharmaceutical industry, I know I have a voice. I know I have all these capabilities, these talents, these skills inside me. But then that voice of leadership in me was like diminished, just because of what I started planting in my mind, that, oh, I can't be as good as my manager. I cannot be as good as that person, because they speak so fluently. They express themselves better than me. And so what I've been telling myself eventually diminished that character in me of a leader.
It really demonstrates how important self-talk is.
It
That's
does,
self-talk.
yeah.
What are the stories that we're telling ourselves, even from situations? What stories evolve in our mind? What are the stories that we make up attached to an event or a situation that happens?
Mm-hmm. You're right. And the moment actually that I changed my mindset are the moments that I realized my true potential. Those are the moments that I thrive. Those are the moments that I attract people into my circle that are also leaders, that are very positive, that have a lot of potential as well, that offered me also a lot of gateway to opportunities. So yeah, you're right, Denise. It starts with us. It starts in our mindset, and it starts on the. And I just remembered my post today in my Coach by Joy site that, we have to cultivate a garden in our mind, where we remove all the weeds of negativity and plant seeds of positivity. Because whatever we tell ourselves are the most important words, not what others tell us.
And it becomes our reality, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
Reality. Those are wonderful words. You're sharing all these words of wisdom as we go. I won't even have that question for you at the end. And as you talk about that, I remember, and you talked about, I think you talked about opportunity at one point, that just really looking for those doors and recognizing when that door is there and those opportunities present themselves. And it may not be, and I think I shared this with Winnica earlier today, actually, and said, look for those doors and just keep trying the keys until you find the ones that open, because just because you're standing in front of one and you think that's the right one, it may not be the right one, and that's okay too. So what are some of the challenges that you face that stand out for you, and how did you overcome those? I know we've heard about language, we've heard about, so what stands out for you, and how did you respond to that?
Well, I remember, when you were talking about the color, the race, for me, honestly, I can't remember when there was an issue about that with me, but because probably when I know that when you are confident and you believe in yourself, for me, color disappears.
Mm.
Um, but I remember one time when I was when in one company I was working. So I was working I was assigned to the whole of the south of Calgary and the rural areas down south of Calgary. And one time my manager checked in with me. We had a meeting, and so he said, "So have you encountered any redneck yet?" And at the time, what is redneck? Are these people with diseases that their necks turn red? And I really don't know what that means, honestly. And so, and I asked my manager, what does it mean? And so he explained it to me. And I said, no, I did not, because that is not my focus. When I go there, my focus is my work and how can I better the lives of the people that I touch, right? But that's not my focus. So for me, when it's not your focus, it just goes into the shadows. It's not there at all. And
Absolutely.
so for me, it's not a challenge. But I also experienced in another instance where it's a gender bias. It turned into a gender bias environment where women leaders are eventually pushed out of the company, and so it's became male dominated, and it's hard to function because our goals did not align anymore, and I have to leave the company. But and that's one thing too. When we are in this environment, there are environments that we cannot control, right? What we can control are the decisions we make. So it's either we can stay and be miserable in that condition, or as you said, look for opportunities. That's not the only corral that you can prance around. Get out of that corral, and then the world is wider. And as we said, as we talk about this, Denise, I am so sometimes amazed why some people only look at one door of opportunity. Sometimes that door would close and they will still wait outside that door, knocking, waiting for the person on the other side to open that door. What if that other person that will open that door is already dead? You'll be waiting there for a long time. Come on, there are a lot of other doors
I
that
love
you
that.
can knock, and people will open. Opportunities are out there. We have to seek it. We
Yeah.
just don't sit around and wait for opportunities to fall in our laps. That's just me. That's my belief.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm loving the image of all of us prancing around the corral.
Yeah.
I think
Like horse.
that just makes so much sense, because I think that's exactly where we go in our minds. We have the self-talk. We think about, oh, and then we have that, and exactly as you say, when you're looking at gender bias, sometimes we know that exists. And I think that sometimes what I've experienced too is it breeds a bit of competition rather than collaboration, even among the women, because they feel like there's so few opportunities and they need to fit in with the old boys club or whatever the style of leadership is there. And it doesn't necessarily resonate for us as women. We have a very different, sometimes, personality and style, and yet we're trying to fit in a way that we think we need to be to succeed in the world. And truly, there are many instances where that is the case. And it really changes that dynamic, because as women, we need to be supporting each other. We need to be lifting each other up. And as I'm hearing these stories, I mean, as all of you are shining, I'm shining because I'm just so thrilled for you, and because of what you represent and what you're exemplifying to the world. And I want to support that. So I'd like to hear from you. You've shared so many great things. Do you have any more words of wisdom for our young leaders or our continuing leaders that you'd like to share?
Yes, and we are like our generation. These women here, Connie, Eunice, Denise. We are this generation now that we need to pass on some things, some values, some words of wisdom to the next generation, to guide them to pass it on to the next generation. And this is our role now. And since I became the middle-aged girl, I'm a golden girl this year. I have been reflecting on this, on how we can probably give so much to the next generation so that they'll take care of the next generations to come. And here's what I want the younger generation to always remember: start loving yourself first and believe in yourself, because no matter what education you got, no matter how rich you are, no matter what status in life you are, but if you don't believe in yourself and you don't love yourself and your cup is not full, you're not able to give into society.
Yeah.
And then the second one is be confident, be brave, and take risks. Because if you don't take risks, there's no growth and you will not feel fulfilled. And the last thing is that have faith and trust the process. The journey towards self-development, personal development, the journey towards greatness is not a paved road. So just have faith. Sometimes our plans will not work the way we want it to be. But if you have faith and trust the process, everything will just pan out the way it's planned for you.
Wow. That is just, I love that. Those are such great words. I'm going to have to sit with that later and just allow that to marinate inside my head and inside my being. That just felt so good as you said those things. And for our young people today, I absolutely feel that that's essential, that we haven't had the greatest examples of leadership lately, and we need to change that. We need to be those people within our communities, within our circles, wherever we are. We need to be those leaders that others look to and say, wow, I want to be like that, and in a really good way. And kudos to your mom, who I know is here and joining.
Yeah, she's listening right now. She's on the other room.
Kudos to your mother for doing such a wonderful job role modeling for you, who is this in this generation, and for her to have done that. And I think the same of my mother, who is now departed, that I wouldn't be the person I am or where I am today without her. So I think that's really great. And I want to thank you both. I know we're on such a time constraint. There's so many great things to talk about, but I just want to say thank you
so much.
You guys were amazing. You gals were amazing. And your stories, you inspired me sitting here and listening to you. And I'm sure that for our guests, they're feeling the same way. And what a great thing. We need more inspiration and more love and compassion and stories, and coming from that place of humility and that lifelong learning approach. So thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Connie. I'm going to thank you both with much love. Thank you for sharing who you are.
Love you, Denise, Eunice. Thank you, Connie.
Yes, no, thank you so much. And Denise, thank you for navigating such a beautiful conversation. You do that so well. Ladies, I'm really humbled, and I've learned so much. And I feel you just brought us a really rich meal. And I'm going to be sending out the recording tomorrow. So if someone doesn't receive it, please check your junk and spam. I feel like this is a message worth sharing if you want to share it in your networks, just to encourage people to keep going. I loved what I was hearing about the tenacity to keep going, to that ability to be resilient, to not let any challenge stop us, to remember who we are. And, my deepest desire for everyone listening is for you to know that there is so much potential for you. And I loved all the nuggets. Please go back and listen to the nuggets, because I feel like you ladies gave us keys on how to push past resistance and opposition in a really graceful way, and to just be the best that we possibly can. There's so much hope in a world right now where headlines are full of fear. Just remember that there's hope, and there's always an opportunity. Joy, like you said, the doors, there's always a door, there's always a way. And just want to encourage everyone listening. Thank you, Denise, again. You are a gem. We just honor your beauty that you bring to everyone around you through just your generous spirit. We just love you. And Euniz and Joy, thank you again.
And Connie, I want to interject in here and say congratulations on a wonderful award that that you were part of
Yes.
that.
Yes, congratulations.
About that.
Congrats, Connie.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. For those of you who don't know, I won a national award for health and wellness. So I better be taking good care of myself.
Woohoo!
But yeah, it's a real win for Wellness Innovate. It really represents us all. It's an award that represents what Abe is building with the company, and what we're all about is we're about people. And so if you ever want to know more about us, we are wellnessinnovate.com. We're about just changing the world by changing the workplace. And that starts right here, everyone. So thanks again. Have a wonderful day, and look for the recording in your inboxes.
Thank
Thank
you, everybody.
you. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Keep shining.